So you're thinking about going solar, right? You've definitely heard the sales pitch. But what happens after you sign the contract and those panels are actually on your roof? But that's where the real journey begins. So in this explainer, we're going to blow past the sales talk and get into the nitty-gritty, the 25-year reality of what it's really like to own your own power plant. All right, so let's get right into it. See, getting those panels bolted onto your roof, that's just step one. The real deal is owning and operating this thing, this power plant, for the next, 25 years. So what does that actually look like? What are the challenges, the costs, and the routines you really need to know about? All right, first up, let's talk about the money. Because beyond that big initial price tag, a solar system is a long-term investment. And that means it can come with long-term costs. Getting a handle on the full financial picture, well, that's step one of this whole journey. And this quote, it's from a potential solar owner on Reddit, and man, it just hits the nail on the head. It gets right to that anxiety a lot of people feel. It's not just about the price you're quoted, right? It's about those nasty surprises that can pop up later and totally wreck your budget. So, let's name them. Let's get them out in the open. So, that price you were quoted? Yeah? It might not cover all the prep work your house actually needs. If you've got an older home, for instance, you might be looking at an electrical panel upgrade or even some roof repairs before you can even start. Oh, and don't forget about insurance. Your premium is almost certainly going to go up to cover this brand new asset on your roof. Now, a great installer, they're going to talk about all this stuff with you upfront. They'll put it all into what's called a turnkey contract, so there are absolutely no surprises. Okay, but here's the big one. This is the single biggest predictable cost that for some reason gets overlooked all the time. Your panels, they're probably warranted for 25 years. Awesome. But the inverter, that's the brain of your whole system, it's only got a lifespan of about 10 to 15 years. It will need to be replaced. That's not an if, it's a when. And here's the real kicker. The new inverter itself might be covered by its own warranty, but the labor cost to get it installed, that's usually on you. You've got a budget for that. Okay, but let's put one big fear to rest right now. People always ask, what about the weight on my roof? Well, listen to this. According to structural experts, the vast majority of roofs, we're talking 95% of them, can easily support the weight of a solar panel installation. No problem. And for that other little 5%, a structural engineer will figure out exactly what reinforcements are needed before a single panel goes up. So once you've sorted out all the costs, the next huge milestone is the installation itself. And this isn't just any old construction project. This is a super critical process that's all about keeping the workers safe and making sure your home's integrity, your roof, stays solid for the long haul. And this really shows you the difference between doing it right and, well, cutting corners. On one side, you've got the professional setup. Everything's accounted for: electrical safety, fire safety, fall protection, the whole 9 yards. And on the other side, a really common shortcut. It's an improperly sealed mount, and that little mistake can lead to some seriously expensive roof leaks down the road. This is why quality installation is it's non-negotiable. So what should you actually be looking for? How do you know your crew is legit? Well, a professional crew will always follow these basic protocols. First, they're going to use proper fault protection, like harnesses. Second, they will absolutely de-energize the system, cut the power, before they touch a single wire. Third, they'll use special insulated tools to prevent any chance of shock. And fourth, they'll clearly mark all the high voltage zones. Simple as that. Just knowing this stuff helps you make sure your installer is playing by the rules and keeping everyone safe. All right, the panels are on, the system's humming along. Now what? Well, for the next 25 years, you are officially in the maintenance phase. But listen, don't think of this as some awful chore. Think of it more like your playbook, a simple guide to keeping your power plant running at peak performance. Maintenance really just breaks down into 3 different types. First, you've got preventative. This is your regular checkup, cleaning the panels, giving things a quick visual inspection. Then there's corrective. That's exactly what it sounds like. Something breaks and you gotta fix it. And finally, there's predictive maintenance. This is the really cool stuff, where you're using data from your system's monitoring to spot trends and fix problems before they even happen. And this is just a perfect example of why that simple preventative stuff matters so much. Look at that dirty sensor. It's so grimy it can't even read the sunlight properly, and that can throw off the performance of the entire system. And then you see the other side, a nice clean array just cranking out maximum power. Honestly, a lot of the time, the best thing you can do for your system is just give it a good cleaning.
Okay, but what happens if you ignore that maintenance? This is where things can get pretty serious. So let's take a quick and maybe a little scary tour through the rogues gallery of common solar system failures. This is exactly what we're trying to avoid.
First up, a classic failure. You have a loose or corroded electrical connector that creates resistance, and resistance creates heat. And this is what you get, a melted, burnt-out connector. It's a huge fire hazard, and it's almost always caused by a bad installation or just a lack of basic inspection. Now here's a problem you literally can't see with your own eyes. This is a thermal image, and it's showing a dangerous hotspot on a panel. A single cell is overheating. We're talking over 100 degrees Celsius. This completely ruins the panel, it tanks your energy output, and yep, you guessed it, it's another big fire risk. Remember, your system lives outside 24/7. And nature, well, nature can take a toll. This is a cable that's been chewed up by rodents, and believe it or not, this is a surprisingly common problem. What it does is expose live DC wiring, which is a super serious risk for electrical shock or short circuits. This is why just walking by and looking at your system once in a while is so key. And here, this is what happens when one of those hotspots is just left to fester. That black burn mark, that's a catastrophic failure. The sol is toast. The panel itself is permanently damaged, and it's got to be replaced. Again, this is why those simple inspections matter so much. So after seeing all those gnarly failure photos, you have to wonder, what's the #1 culprit? Well, the data's pretty clear. This chart shows that the inverter, the brain, is linked to over 60% of all failure events. That is way more than any other part of the system. And when the brain goes down, the whole operation just stops. Production goes to zero, which means the most lost energy. So if there is one single component you need to keep a close eye on, it's the inverter. Okay, enough of the doom and gloom. Let's pivot. Let's talk about the payoff. Because knowing about all these potential problems isn't meant to scare you off, not at all. It's meant to empower you, to give you the knowledge you need to keep your system healthy and really maximize that return on your investment. So how do you do that? How do you keep track? Well, allow me to introduce you to your new best friend, the performance ratio, or PR for short. Just think of it like a report card for your solar system. It's that simple. It measures the energy your system actually produced, and it compares it to what it theoretically should have produced under perfect, lab-like conditions. A healthy system usually has a PR somewhere between 75 and 85%. If you see that number start to dip, you know it's time to investigate. And that dip, it's the direct result of all those things we just saw, the burnt connectors, the hotspots, or yeah, even just dirty panel. And this right here, this is the payoff, clear as day. This graph is showing a system's daily power generation. The blue peaks, that's its performance when the panels are dirty. Then, right at that line, they get cleaned. And just look at that, an immediate dramatic jump in energy production. That's the red peaks. That's your ROI from a simple cleaning staring you right in the face. So, at the end of the day, the biggest takeaway is this. You didn't just buy a product. You invested in a power plant that's going to sit on your roof for 1/4 of a century. And just like any power plant, it needs a little bit of oversight to perform at its best. So the real question is, are you ready to be its operator?